Hi, I'm meteorologist Mike Mihalik, and this is long-range meteorologist Jim Sullivan, and it's time for the final 2018-2019 winter forecast. And I'd like to thank everybody who watched our previous video on the winter forecast elements. A lot of interesting comments, right, Corey from Pawn Stars?
Yeah, I'm glad I landed on my feet as a meteorologist in New Jersey after all that.
We should need to call a guy in or something. Yeah. That's what he does in the show. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get on over to the snowfall so far this year. I mean, we've had a lot of snowfall. Over 30 states as of October 22nd have seen accumulating snow. Pretty remarkable.
It is.
So will that go into the winter season and continue that cold and snowy pattern? Well, Jim, let's have at it and start with El Nino.
Yeah, so El Nino, that's one of the big forecast elements this winter, and here's a model forecast showing the expected El Nino development. You can see warmer waters developing across the equatorial Pacific. That is El Nino. The model's expected to keep coming on, conditions favored, so maybe not quite as strong as that particular model run showed. We're thinking more of a solid weak El Nino this winter, pretty much on track from our previous video.
Okay, and we see the North Atlantic here is highlighted, so what are we seeing going on there?
Few different things there. So very warm waters off the East Coast. That'll add some fuel to any coastal storms that develop throughout the winter. And this water temperature orientation kind of favors the development of what we call a negative NAO throughout the winter.
And Jim, I mean, what's the negative NAO? We had a lot of questions about that. Let's briefly sum it up. Why is it important?
It's basically a pattern in the jet stream over the North Atlantic into eastern North America. A negative NAO is when there's a big ridge in the jet stream near Greenland or Iceland. It causes the jet stream to essentially back up towards the east coast of the U.S., promotes cold and stormy conditions. It was a big element in last March's barrage of nor'easters.
And I also find it's interesting you're mentioning the sunspot cycle here. So why is that important to the winter forecast?
Yeah, so a lot of El Nino winters that occur near a minimum in the sunspot cycle, which we're coming up on right now, they tended to have a lot of negative NAO development through the winter.
Okay, well that's hence why we have that graph there. So let's get over to the forecast and see what we have here. Here are a couple analog years real quick first, though. A lot of these were cold and snowy type
That's
winters.
a big one, yeah.
Yeah, 77, 78 for sure. There was several big East Coast blizzards during that period, at least the 78 blizzard in New England.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and in the Great Lakes.
So now let's progress over to the temperature map for the nation here for the season. Let's go through it here. What's with the mildness in the Northwest Pacific?
Yeah, so that's a combination of El Nino that tends to put a ridge in the jet stream on the west coast and those very mild water temperatures south of Alaska that you could see on the previous slide. That puts a ridge in the jet stream there that diverts the cold around the Pacific Northwest, kind of dumps it in farther east, but that leaves mild conditions in the Pacific Northwest.
And then the extra cool conditions in the southeast from the El Nino and the southern stream?
Yeah, the El Nino and the southern stream, that creates storminess here along the Gulf Coast. Those storms pull down cool air from the north, and we expect cold air to be available since it's kind of getting diverted around the northwest and kind of plunging towards the east.
And that leads us into our weather map for the season. So big snow threat across the eastern seaboard here. So what do we have going on there that you're seeing?
Yeah, so you have your active storm track from the El Nino and the negative NAO that's expected to develop at times. You take that combination, it's pretty favorable for low pressure systems to ride up near the East Coast, bringing a good amount of precipitation, and a lot of that will be snow. It'll be fairly cold at times throughout the winter there.
So when do you think is the biggest period that we're looking for as far as snow and cold this season?
The biggest period, it'll be late January through February, maybe lingering into March. That's a pretty classic time frame for these kind of El Nino winters to be their coldest and snowiest, and there could be a little blip of colder, snowier conditions in early to mid-December as well.
Okay, and I see a couple of close calls here in the Ohio River Valley. What's happening there that's a little iffy?
Yeah, so for the most part, the storms are going to ride to the south, and clippers will come down through the Great Lakes and kind of miss this region to the north. So it'll be a fairly dry winter there overall. The concern is that when the cold relaxes a little bit, this active storm track could come north a couple of times. This area doesn't average a whole lot of snow, maybe a foot or two, if not less, by the time you're down in Lake Tennessee. So one or two big storms, that pushes them to average snow or above. So even though it'll be fairly dry, I think they might get their snow still.
All right, and of course we're going to be a bit drier out west due to that ridge coming in, as we talked about before. A little bit of mountain snow across the Intermountain West there with that active southern stream. Yeah. But I think that pretty much sums it up for this upcoming winter. So thanks a lot, Jim, for being with us today.
Absolutely.
Remember, hey, we're the nation's leader in snow and ice verification with certified snowfall totals. Visit certifiedsnowfalltotals.com right there. But in the meantime, you can certainly get more information on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and also weatherworksinc.com. And as always, have a safe winter season.